And you see, if these fellows are headed out for a spiritual journey and they decide to congregate in Tabat Inn, it therefore implies that Tabat Inn is a minor setting. Oh yes, because it is a setting where the pilgrims congregate before they embark on this journey. Now let's look at the Tabat Inn again in specificity. Now I earlier said that the Tabat Inn is a resource center. It is an inn. Now we talk about hotels. In those days we spoke about inns. It was one of the best at the time in Southwark, London. Now for this individual to choose a Tabat Inn, which was the best, it tells us that besides the spiritual benefits of this journey, they had other motives for engaging in it. But then let's get into that gradually. Now they decide to choose the Tabat Inn as a platform or an inn where they would gather up before they engage in their journey. What are our analysis? Now we are told that this Tabat Inn is owned by a astute fellow called Bailey. Bailey is the host or the owner of the Tabat Inn. And when these fellows come in, he welcomes every one of them. And he tells them that he has decided to become one of them. So he imposes himself on the company as a member of the group. He didn't just end there. He welcomes them and tells them that there's sumptuous food, there's good wine, and there are spacious rooms, large rooms. That let them eat the best food they can find, drink drink wine, and then go in there and rest in those spacious rooms. And early in the morning, they all shall engage in the journey. Now, when he says they all shall, it means he is making himself a member of the group. Joseph too is seated there inside the inn, and he observes all of this, and he tells us that he too joins the company. So he too is part of the company. Now, what is the implication to the overall objective of CHOSA? Now it is simple. For these people to be able to choose one of the best resource centers, it tells us that besides the spiritual benefits, it was also a pleasure-seeking journey. There were some of those pilgrims who engaged this journey not for the spiritual objectives or desires, rather they were having fun. Oh yes, we're having fun. Because we do know that the Bible restricts us from material things. But then, why would you live simple, average inns and go for the very rich ones, the very expensive ones? It means that you're out there to have fun. So these guys decide to stay in the Tabat Inn. And we do say that it shows that the journey had a pleasure motive. Now early in the morning, this same Bailey tells them that the journey to Canterbury will be a very long and boring one. But then to make the journey quite easier for everyone, it will be good that they engage in a storytelling session. That way it will lessen the burden of the journey. And immediately everybody accepts. He also tells them that whoever tells the best story will be entitled to a free meal provided for by everyone in the company. They accept as well. And then lastly, he said they must establish an order in which stories should be told by drawing straws. Now for him to impose himself as a leader of the group, it tells us that Bailey is domineering because he dominates conversations. He guides proceedings. Now, another aspect that we might also want to say is that at the level of character trait, Bailey appears more like a manipulator. Oh yes, he is manipulative. He manipulates the company to accept him as their leader. No one voted for him. He just took initiatives into his own hands. Thirdly, we can also say Bailey is an astute businessman because he does so just to ensure that his inn prospers. He does good business. Because remember, he owns an inn. He's out there to make money. And so if he initiates that a free meal, had he said that, okay, anyone who tells the best story will have a free meal, and the free meal will be on the house, or no one will pay for it. And then we get to understand that, okay, this guy is not out to make money. But it says everyone will pay for it. That tells us that Bailey is an astute businessman. And these fellows are his customers. And none of them raise a finger, none of them challenges him. So the group is virtually under his care. So he takes possession of the group. And then they are engaged in that journey. And so Chosa will then move forward to give us analysis, detailed account of everything about these 29 pilgrims, beginning with the first, who is their knight. is going to begin with the knight. Now, the knight is a man of war. Take note that we are going back to the medieval period in England and in Europe. And one thing that was very common at the time that Chaucer wrote, which was the 15th century, was the prevalence of Chaucer wrote at the time where there was a prevalence of the 100 Years' War. That was a medieval period. So we realize that this insecurity finds expression in the poem. That explains why the pilgrims congregate. That's why they are traveling in a group, because they always say that together there's more security. So it tells us that the insecurity in Europe at the time is well represented in the text, seen through the group that moves out. Now, another aspect that I might also want to see is the presence of a man of war knight. Now, why has Chaucer presented this guy? Chaucer presents this guy again to show us that spiritual, religious wars and campaigns was a common day thing in his days, in the mid-centuries, the medieval period. That's why there's a man of war, the knight. I will later on hear that this guy has fought 15 mortal battles, deadly battles, and every time he goes to war, he defeats his opposite man, his adversary. He always defeats them. He has fought in Tramisen, he has fought in Antalya, which is in the Middle East, in Turkey. He has fought in Granada, which is in Spain. He has gone as far as Algeciras and the Maghreb, that's in North Africa. He has gone right to Hull. He has gone right to Crimea in Russia and around the Baltics. So these numerous wars that this guy has fought tells us that truly he's Chaucer's war hero. Oh yes. And besides that, Chaucer also imbues him with a lot of positive values. When Chaucer tells us that he has been given several awards and medals for his excellence in his heroic exploits and his numerous war adventures. That's not just all. He's a well-respected member of the military corps, because we are told that every time that there's a meeting, he's given a position at the high table, at the executive, and he always leads his men, his battalion. That tells us that he's just not an ordinary infantry member or a cavalry soldier just sitting on horseback. No, he is a leader, somebody who commands a position within the ranks of the military. Now, other personal attributes Chaucer tells us about him is that the guy is so humble. He's so calm and so humble that he has never said anything bad to anyone ever since he was born. Now, let's take note of a hyperbole. And Chaucer says he was always modestly dressed, which means he was always humble in his physical appearance. Not the kind of dude who is going to throw on, some lavish outfit to show us how rich he is. In spite of his numerous successes, his money and wealth, the guy always appears very humble, down to earth. And that is not just all. The guy was a champion of chivalry. Now, what is chivalry? Chivalry was a military code that had found expression throughout Europe. Civilians also bought into the code of chivalry. It was believed that to be a man of war, you must hold dearly at heart the code of chivalry. And the code of chivalry was a handful of I would say traits or virtues that a man of war was expected to keep. For instance, there was loyalty. He was expected to be very loyal to his king, fight his king's wars without any iota of rebellion in him. Two, he was also expected to be very generous, to be able to help the poor. That is what was expected of military men, which was also an item of the chivalry. Now, freedom was another aspect. Given that he had to fight for freedom, that was another aspect of chivalry. Love and to serve your lady was another aspect, as well as humility. So all these different virtues put together form the code of chivalry. And Chaucer's man of war, the knight, had all of this at hand. That's why Chaucer describes him with superlative language. When Chaucer says, indeed, he was a perfect knight. Now that line alone tells us that Chaucer sees him as his moral yardstick, as his moral champion. He uses him as a measuring tape to size up the other characters. That's why Chaucer started with him. So that is a glaring example for everybody to aspire to. So Chaucer begins with him and knight. And when we get to the merchant's tale, we learn of January, an elderly merchant who has gone on retirement, an elderly knight who has gone on retirement, and then he decides to get married to a young bride and then live a calm and quiet life. So January is a representation of the knight whom we have just discussed, the general prologue. He also finds expression in the merchant's tale, because the tale is about him January. His desire to get married to a young woman. We are going to come to that to see how that marriage played out. If it was successful or it brought January tears to the eyes, we are going to look at that. Let's leave that for another time. So, I hope that you've learned something today. We have discussed setting. We have discussed setting in the general prologue. We have spoken about the time setting, the season of May, where showers, there's heavy downpour, and how much vitality it brings to the human world as well as the animal world. We have also shifted paradigms to the Tabat Inn, where 29 pilgrims congregate or they gather en route to Thomas A. Beckett's shrine. We have also put the word on who Thomas A. Becket was and why these pilgrims are headed to his shrine. We've looked at that. So in our next video, we are going to continue with analysis. We are going to take on his son, the squire, draw comparison between him and his father, his old man, the knight, and then we are going to wrap up with the aristocracy, with the young man. Remember that the Officiosa as a general prologue is an example of an estate literature. Estate literature means literature that deals with social classes. We have different social classes which he has touched on. The first is the aristocracy, the ruling class, the nobility, call it like that. In those days, to be a knight, you must come from the noble class. And for this knight to be who he is, he must have come from that class. And if he's a noble man and he's training his son to be a knight like him, therefore him and his son are members of nobility. So we can also group their man servant, the young man. So the three of them will constitute the nobility. Once we have treated that, we are then going to shift to the clergy. Clergy means officers who defend the church, officers who work in the church. We are going to look at them. Through them, we can see Chaucer's presentation of the medieval church. And therefore, we then go down to the rocks, those find at the lower echelons of the social ladder, and the things they do, the common thieves and criminals in the neighborhood. We are going to excavate everything Chaucer says about them and analyze them, shedding light on themes, and they will touch on possible questions. So if the analysis are going really well, which I know they are, just hit the subscribe button, you share and you like. It's very, very important. It's the only way we can pay for the videos. Gradually, we are getting more subscribers for our videos. So I'll see you again in the next video. Ciao. Ciao, 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 ciao.